afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. I hope you're having a good one. Today we are tying a Griffiths Sparkle Gnat. Represents sort of cluster of midges or emerging chrionomids. It's a great wee pattern. This one's actually, I'm going to tie it in a 14 because they are usually quite a small pattern. It's easier on the camera and easier for you to see what I'm doing though if I tie it a bit bigger. For reference though, here's a little size 18, if I can get it to stay there, there we go. These are tied on a Kamasan B405, again this is a 14, 18. I quite like the bigger ones as well. I've had a few tape them just as a sort of general terrestrial pattern I guess, when a few other things haven't worked. To tie them, we're using Semperfli Nano Silk in black in the 30 denier. I've got some Semperflash in the Krystal pearl out as a little shuck or tail out the back of it there. Body, Peacock Herl, and then some Grizzly Hackle for the Hackle. We'll crack into it. I hope you enjoy it and I hope it's a handy pattern. It's a really good one to start off with if you're just learning how to tie dry flies. Nice and simple, but teaches you some good techniques for wrapping Hackle and doing that sort of palmed body. But yeah, here we go. Alright, as I said, black nano silk in the 30 denier. This is a bulk spool, which is fantastic. It says on the label there, got 500 meters of this stuff to go. So it lasts a while. But we just get that base layer of thread onto here. Just like any other fly. Just as much as you can, try to get those touching wraps, and you just want to stop just where it goes into the bend of the hook. And we'll just get rid of the tag end. Again, I've mentioned in other videos, but just take that V and slide it through rather than trying to cut it. Nano silk's really strong and cutting it can just be a bit of a nightmare. You make that V, just slides right through. Alright, onto the Krystal pearl. Cool flash, comes from the Semperflash brand within Semperfli. Makes for a nice little shuck or a tail off the end of this. Now if you just wanted to tie the traditional Griffiths Gnat, don't tie it in, and that's all you have to do. I just want to get it tied in. Usually I find one length of the flash makes for a couple flies. So just tie that in. Just secure it in nice and tight along the top. And then snip that away. And we'll just tie it on. Just gives the pattern a little bit of flash and catches the eye. From there we'll trim it off. Usually I go about half the hook shank, out to about 3/4, give or take. But we'll move on to tying in the Hackle and the Herl. Right. For the Hackle that we're going to tie in, we're using a Grizzly saddle Hackle. This one's from Whiting, but use whichever ones you prefer. You just want to strip it away so you can tie it in just using the stem. And also, hopefully you'll be able to see, is I take off a little bit from the underside on the direction you're going to wrap it. It just makes that first wrap a little bit easier. And then when you tie it in, you just want that very first fibre on the top there to be in line with where your flash starts. And just get that secured in. And from there we can snip away that little bit of stem. Alright, next up is the Peacock Herl for the body. You can use a few strands of it, or I just use one. The other thing you can do is if you wanted, you could put a little bit of glue along there to hold it. However, we are cross ribbing that Hackle, which I find gives it more than enough support. And just tie this in back towards the back of the hook and finish up the same place where you tied that Hackle in. Just get it in nice and secure. Now the tips are generally pretty fragile, so you can usually just pull it away. And we'll just get that secured in. Just make sure you're in a spot where you're happy with it. And then we'll move on to wrapping them all. Alright, first things first, we'll wrap this Herl. I like to use the thread as a bit of a guide for it. So if you just keep it right where you're going to be wrapping it, just keeps it all nice and bunched in together and gives you a really nice body. Just every couple of wraps you can move it forward. And we'll just keep going up, tying this body. Get a nice long peacock herl if you can. You can either get it from the feather itself, or you can buy them in packs too. But we'll just keep going. A bit of a process, can take a little time, but just keep wrapping. If you lose it there, that's okay. Just keep going forward. I think I've gotten twisted a little bit here, but we'll come back. There we go. It doesn't have to be the tidiest. At the end of the day, it's going to all be underneath the hackle anyway. And once you get to about half an eye length, it's probably a bit hard to see on the camera, but I am about half a eye length from the eye, just tie it off. There we go, that's your little peacock underbody. Right, final step, and we're just going to wrap this this hackle. Generally you want it to be just slightly longer than the hook gap. Just wrap it forward. And this one's just a little bit long, but that's alright, it'll still fish. And just bring it up to the eye and then tie it in. It's no great difficulty here, and like I said at the start, it's a great way for people just learning to tie dry flies to get into it and start learning some techniques around wrapping hackle and everything like that. Once you've got it tied in, just take your scissors, and I like using these little fine point ones. This is the Semperfli 6-finger scissors, which are quite handy for just getting in here when you need to snip away that hackle. There we go. Alright, last but not least, finished it off. Good old whip finish. Just get it tied in at the eye. If you want, put a little bit of glue in there. Here we go. I have caught one of those little hackle feathers, but you can just take your scissors, again those little fine point ones, and snip it away. It's not going to affect how it fishes ultimately though. You can leave it if you want it. Right, there we have it, the Griffiths Sparkle Gnat. Nice and simple, and a great place for beginners to start trying dry flies. Game's got that Krystal pearl Semperflash from Semperfli's little tail or shuck, the Grizzly Hackle, the Hackle and Peacock Herl, Semperfli black Nano silk, and the Kamasan B405. Again, I have a few bigger ones, which are handy just as sort of like a general terrestrial kind of pattern, but generally mine is tied a bit smaller, like this little 18 we've got here. So if you're tying them for the midges, go smaller, but if you're having a practice trying to learn it, or if you want something bigger for whatever reason, give it a nudge. Definitely a lot easier to learn on the bigger hook as well, and then you can start scaling it down as you get better. But there it is. I hope it's helpful. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Happy tying, and see you next time. Cheers.